Hello everyone, it's Marcus Ten Lau here in June 2026. Now, I played Digger, which is the computer game from 1983, for the first time in 40 years the other day, and I want to talk about it because it gave me some interesting insights into the nature of the human mind. I have very, very fond memories of Digger, and the pathos and epic nature of the game has stayed with me for 40 years. But when I played it again the other day, I felt like it was not quite as exciting as as I had previously imagined it to be. And that gave me an idea that the mind does change in terms of relative bearings on what is significant to the mind in terms of what matters to the mind. So now I regard it as a little bit trivial. It doesn't have noble or highly worldly oriented objectives to the game. But at the time that I was playing it, I acquired those feelings for the game because I was just, 6 or 8 years old and I didn't really understand the entire worldly context that I do now. So the game meant a great deal to me, and being at the top of the leaderboard among my brother and my cousin was meant a huge amount to me at the time. Now, 1980s was a time when computers were simpler. It was a generation and a time of relative simplicity, and people were enjoying things for what they were worth, much more than they are these days. So a game like Digger was a big deal, and it meant a lot to the intellect and the mind, and it had emotional effects on the brain which are at least as good as today's, but were simpler in the way that they were transmitted. Now, you know how there are people like computer nerds who are given like a really old computer in an early time in their lives and they fiddle with it and then they become really good at working out how it works. These computer nerds become computer scientists, they do university research, and they become industrialists with computer, IT, that sort of thing, and probably very rich as well. And they do a lot of programming. These people are given an early opportunity at something very early in life, and it's with games with objects like this, like a toolbox or an experimental kit of some kind that I have at hand right now. These are examples of things where people, when they're given these things early in life, they make use of them and become very expert in that area. They become engineers and astronauts and medical scientists, etc., etc. And, you know, I was never really given the opportunity to really play with something like that. I was much more aligned with my parents. I was close to my mother. I loved music and drama and acting and speech and reciting poems and reading from books. But in terms of things like these kits that I showed you, I had very little of that. So I was not going to turn into an engineer. I was going to turn into an artist. And that's what I became in 40 years' time from then. So imagine if I had been given a Commodore 64 or some really old computer and been allowed to muck around with it. What sort of person would I have become? Now, I'm not going to lie, having putting 40 years onto your life gives you um, a sense of perspective, but it also makes your brain slow down. Getting older has drug like tolerance effects. So, as I mentioned, the epic feeling that I got from my game playing Digger, I cannot get the same feeling by doing the same things. I need to increase the experience in order to get the same feelings. So that's like having a drug, right? It's like tolerance for a drug. So I hope I've given you a really good idea of how the brain works. I had one other thought that if someone were to raise a child knowing the answers and teaching the child everything that person that he knows, it would be very different from having a child and learning with that child and exploring things together with that child. And I think that really puts things into perspective on the things that I've talked about. Things like mucking about, being idle, being bored, doing simple things, but tearing apart old computers. This is generations past, and I guess we don't really have such opportunities anymore, but in some areas we still do with AI and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think that the tools that we have for education these days have become too complicated and too um, deceptive with inbuilt obsolescence and all sorts of things like that, all sorts of crap baked into the iPhones and that sort of thing. So my proposal is that we bring back all those old computers and start to fiddle with them again. We could make a lot of progress and become really smart that way. So thanks for watching, and take care with your computers and your gaming and your what you choose as your industry in 2026. Bye for now.